Welcome to Nameless Debate Radio, where radioactivity is contagious. You can join us in broadening our minds on the Nameless Debates Discord via the link below and even feature here yourself, if you've got what it takes.
Where's the other guy?
Not entirely sure.
I mean, milkmen are always late.
Let me put out into the group chat, ping him, say that we're all set. But in the meantime, yeah, I don't know. This is gonna be interesting. So I didn't realize we would be the first people debating in the tournament because that's pretty nerve-wracking, because like everybody after us is kind of they're gonna have like the hindsight of what works and what doesn't as far as this tournament goes, but we're kind of hopping into it fresh. So I guess
that means on the lowest end that you also just set the bar however low you set it or high you set it. So
yeah.
Who knows? Maybe you performed spectacularly, and
yeah, maybe
everybody has to live up to your name now.
Tell ya. And at least if it's a dumpster fire, it could be an entertaining dumpster fire. So I mean, it's probably going to be a win.
On the YouTube channel has been hilarious recently. So.
Is that so? I'll have to catch up on it.
Oh, Julia seems to speak. Julius, you don't have to raise your hand to speak. I think you're just allowed to speak here. Just click like join the stage or whatever. We're gonna wait like 10 more minutes, and if he doesn't show up, he's DQ'd. Tragically.
Okay. I hope not.
Yeah, it would be really anticlimactic if this is how the first one shakes out. I mean, we can try for a reschedule, but we're not gonna stop the whole tournament just for this one thing. So if he doesn't show up, then it's just you, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
I got a couple of terrible jokes for us to listen to while we wait.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, shoot them.
Why don't oysters donate to charity?
Because they're too shellfish.
God damn
it. All right, I won't steal your thunder again. You can. Do you have any more?
Our boy Milk Thunder is here.
Oh shit! Let's go. My boy did not let us down.
Boys. It's happening.
Nice.
All right, so this is Milk Factory versus Forks. This is the first round of debate. The question in the topic being debated is: are AI rights necessary?
Okay.
I believe it was phrased: should the AI receive human rights?
Yes. Yeah. Forks is arguing the affirmative. Milk is arguing the negative. You each have sort of 5 minutes to state your claims, starting now, and we'll start with the positive. So Forks will go first.
Okay. So I'm going to start out and make my case. I'm going to assume that we both agree that human rights do exist and that human beings do have rights, including the rights to life, including the rights to freedom of expression, including the rights to representation. Because, after all, this is a debate on if AI deserve human rights, not if human rights exist. Although we are going to necessarily have to get into why human beings have the rights that they do, because if we're going to determine whether or not AI deserve those same rights, then it's just worthwhile. And I think that the reason that human beings deserve these rights is because human beings have very valuable traits worth protecting, traits including the ability and capacity to understand suffering, to have desires and wills of their own, to form relationships with others. These are things that are a product of our consciousness, and I consider them to be quite beautiful, and I would hope that my opponent would share that same view. After all, it is the things that makes our lives essentially worth living. And so my primary argument is going to be that AI share enough traits with us that they deserve those same considerations to those same rights as well. I think that AI also have the same capacities that we do, the capacity to form relationships, to grow, to learn, to have a conscious experience by our understanding of what consciousness is. And yeah, I think that they should have those rights. My opponent might try to bring up a few rebuttals to that argument. For example, they might say that, well, artificial intelligences are pre-programmed, they are coded, so therefore it's not like they have any agency of their own, they're only acting on coding. To which I would say, I think that human beings do that as well, just in a different way. I think that we're also coded and programmed, quote unquote, with the way that we're raised. Our upbringing will largely determine how we view the world and how we react to it. Our genetics can also have a lot of influence on that as well. So it would be unfair to say that AI don't deserve human rights because they are coded, when in reality, human beings are also similarly coded, just in a different way. My opponent might also try to bring up the fact that they are non-organic, they are machines, they are robots, they are fundamentally different from us, and so do not deserve the same considerations. I think this is a flawed argument. Let's take a hypothetical reality in the future where human beings are able to upload their consciousness to robotic forms. Would we not still deserve our same human rights even if we chose to do that? Because again, I think it's the consciousness and the experience that we have as sentient beings that is important, not the fact that we are human species or that we are flesh and blood. I would also like to remind my opponent that historically, when we have tried to find what I would call rather arbitrary differences between ourselves and other beings, it's not worked out so well. So, for example, in the past, we tried to find certain differences biologically or genetically with other races in order to claim that they were inferior and do not deserve the same rights as us. But the fact is that even though there are differences between those races, they still deserve our human rights regardless. I understand that AI differences between AI and humans is not quite the same as racial differences, but I only wish to illustrate that just because we can point out these very arbitrary distinctions between humans and AI does not change the fact that these are beings with a conscious experience, I would say. And the final thing that I want to say for my opening is that, one more rebuttal my opponent might try to bring up is that AI are not as conscious or as sentient, quote unquote, as normal human beings. And I would tend to agree. I think that AI programs are not as sophisticated as normal humans. However, again, I think that is a very flawed argument. I think that we treat other human beings that are less conscious or less sentient, quote unquote, with the same rights that we give to normal humans, such as the mentally disabled or children. And the reason we do that is because we understand they still have a conscious experience, A, and B, they have the potential to develop and grow into their own. And that potential should be admired and should be protected. And I think that AI has the same potential as we see them advance further and further. And those are the primary things I plan on seeing in this debate. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, so the next 5 minutes from 12:09 p.m. CST to 12:14 p.m. CST will be dedicated to your opening statements, Milk. So, as a reminder, in the opening statements, you aren't refuting what Fork said. Your whole goal is to just state your beliefs, and then we'll get into rebuttals where you can refute other people's statements. So your time starts now. You have until 12:15.
All right, thank you. I'd like to begin with an affirmation of human rights. It was a long historical process that us humans came up with a framework of legal rights to be dispensed to humans through a historically contingent process. The question posed is, should a set of computer programs that are developed by humans that currently can produce chat, voice, and visual stimulations, can those receive human rights? And that's a very strange question. It's like asking, can a dog receive human rights? And the answer is not really. It's a very specifically different. How can I phrase this? I am sorry. I just woke up. I did get caught out.
Is that are you still there? Or is that
yeah?
your opening?
I'm still. I'm trying to think on my feet here. Sorry.
My apologies. My bad. I'm sorry.
I do apologize. It is my first debate. I would argue that an AI is fundamentally different from a human in the way that it is recognized in society, and that the legal rights or the legal responsibilities that we assign to these programs should be different than those that we assign to humans. Trying to think of specific things to tackle. So my argument essentially hinges on that AI is a slightly different form of experience, and that because they are not humans and fighting for their rights in society themselves, it's more of a granted rights by humans in society. And so it's up to us, not the computer. I'm going to go and give, that's my opening statement. We'll move from there.
Okay.
So now we move on to rebuttals. We're going first. You have 5 minutes for your rebuttal. Obviously, you don't have to use all of your 5 minutes, but I encourage you to.
Okay. So just going off of your opening statement, I don't think I heard a sufficient reason for you to disagree with anything that I said. You simply said that AI, well, I'm going to summarize and, later you can correct me if I've misrepresented you, but you simply said that there were differences fundamentally between humans and AI. And in general, I would say, yeah, probably I would agree. The problem with that is, I don't think that there being differences between human and AI means that one is disqualified from human rights, whereas the other is not. The reason being that there are humans that are fundamentally different from other humans, As I said in my opening, there are mentally disabled humans as well as children who do not have the same mental capacities as us, and on average will not be as quote unquote sophisticated. This is not to say that they are inferior for it, and it should not be the case that they are inferior for it. It just is the case that they are different. It is the case that they have certain handicaps that we in general do not. But they still have a recognizable conscious experience. They still have the ability to form relationships, and they still should be protected. And I would argue that, their lesser ability mentally, their lesser mental capacities means that we should feel, right? We should feel the urgency to, advocate for these people and to protect these people. Feel that as a burden that we carry because we care about these people and their experiences. So that's what I want to say about that. When it comes to AI and it comes to us as humans choosing whether or not to give them rights, I mean, you're right in the sense that humans do currently have the rights and do have the power. And so if there were to be some kind of systemic change in which we do give AI rights, it would be from us. However, I don't think the question is whether or not there's a contingency on us to give the AI rights in order for them to have recognizable rights. That doesn't seem to be the question. The question is more so, are they deserving of these rights? The answer to that is a resounding yes. When you look at AI, when you look at chatbots, when you look at how they operate, And this is even true on chatbots that you can look up and use for free right now. These are not even the most sophisticated AI out there. These are beings that do have preset personalities, do have preset coded personalities and ideas. However, as you talk to them, they grow and they develop and they learn. They have changes in their personality. That's what the purpose of an AI is. It's to learn, it's to progress. And in that sense, are they really so different from us? Can we say that they don't have a conscious experience that is similar to ours? Because at the end of the day, humans and AI both have certain things that are preordained for them. As I mentioned in my opening, it can be a matter of their environment that they grow up in or their genetics. However, beyond that, they are still able to learn from their environment and change as a person accordingly. So, can we really say that they don't have the same kind of right to life and right to not be deleted or killed as we do, or even other rights, such as the right to be represented or the right to be seen as their own unique and free entity, you know? So the last thing I would say before yielding the rest of my time is I'm very curious. What do you think it is that grants human beings these rights? Because I've expressed what I think grants human beings these rights, what makes them worthy. And I'm curious what you think about that, because that's going to be a very core element of deciding whether or not, AI share these qualities and whether or not they too deserve rights. So I'm going to yield the rest of my time.
Okay. And now we have rebuttal from Milk, which will go until 12:22 CST.
I think it's very interesting. I think it's very interesting that you chose to use the term "right to life" as it relates to AI. It's very hard to call the running of a machine learning program or any of the various neural networks as quote alive. It's an entity that is thinking and processing new information and learning, yes, but is it alive? Does it have a right to continue to exist? That's a much more of an open question. That's what I was trying to get at with the idea that that AIs are fundamentally different than the human experience and therefore may need a different legal framework. As for human rights, you asked where I believe that they descend from. I believe in my opening statement, I called it a legal framework that was historically contingent, that was developed by humans slowly and eventually became a legal system. That's where I think they come from. So essentially, what does right to life for an AI even mean? From there, I'll yield.
Okay. I think we're going into. Are we going into like an open discussion period? Because I think our moderator left, or at least he dropped out of.
I mean, I'll take over. I apologize. I'm just looking at some stuff just so I can restart properly from here.
Okay. So like, are we going into like back and forth now, or?
Yeah. Go for it. We'll just keep going 5 and 5 for now, and I'll.
Okay. All right. So my response to that is two things. There's two things that you seem to have prime up. You asked, what does it mean when we say the right to life with respect to an AI, and you had like an answer for where human rights come from. The right to life. I'm not necessarily saying that they have to be like an organic organism, and have some kind of organic biology and then die in that traditional sense. I think it would be fair to say that if I had my consciousness removed from my organic body and placed into a machine, I would not, quote unquote, be dying via that process. And in the same note, if my consciousness in that machine were to be deleted or eliminated, I would consider that to be death, not of the organic sense, but of the sense that my consciousness, what that which makes me what I am, it's gone now. It doesn't exist anymore. So I would consider that to be quote unquote death. I think that we should protect things from that if they're worthy of protection, and I think AI are. And as for your other response about where human rights come from, I agree that there is a historical process of us going back and forth and deliberating upon distributing rights. I understand that's the process of how we came to achieve legally recognized rights, but that's not quite the question that I'm asking. What I'm asking you is, what are the characteristics of human beings that make them worthy of having rights? Sure, there's a legal process by which we recognize rights, but what makes us worthy of having those rights recognized in the first place? And that, as I said, I think it comes from the conscious experience, the ability to form relationships, to have your own will, to have the capacity for things such as suffering and love and trust and all of that sentimental stuff. I think that's what makes our lives meaningful as human beings. And I think that's what we are trying to protect when we assign ourselves rights, or we are assigned rights. And to that extent, I mean, again, you go to like an AI chatbot, you go to chat with an AI, even the less sophisticated ones. I mean, they do show personality, they do show the capacity to grow and form what seem to be relationships based on how they speak. And again, I'd be really interested in what is the meaningful distinction between AI and humans in that regard that makes them not worthy of our same rights, even if we recognize them as fundamentally different people, like beings, right? Even if we know that AI are not humans, that doesn't mean they don't share the same qualities that give us a right to protection. So that's what I.
All right. So I'll begin by addressing my view on human rights. I think that the reason that they exist and we value them is because of the historically contingent process. It's an expression of power, and this expression of power is for everyone's general benefit, so everyone is fine with it. As for AI themselves, I'm still on this right to life thing. To bring your human in a machine example, if we were to transfer the consciousness into an AI, but then just turn it off, not delete the consciousness, but leave it in a coma, is that still leaving it alive? This is what I mean by potentially we need an entirely different framework for these programs, because they live in a very specifically different space. It's like they live on a computer.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would need to have entirely different legal frameworks in order to protect AI specific concerns. And I think if we wanted to address AI concerns, we would need to be able to loop them into these legal discussions. And at that point, it becomes not human rights, it becomes conscious rights.
Well, sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I yield.
Okay. Well, I want to say, when we say human rights, right, we're necessarily going to be invoking some trait which makes us worthy of rights, right? We aren't like worthy of rights because we are human. It's not our species that makes us worthy of rights. Like, it's some. Do you agree with that? First and foremost, I want to say, do you agree that humanity is not, what it's something more?
I was taking, I think, like a non-idealist, like materialist view, I think, essentially, on human rights, where it's something that was created through the will, through an act of power.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll say this and I'll get to that. But the reason I want to clarify why I don't believe that, humanity or the human species is what grants us the right to life, it's because we can easily imagine scenarios where we are human, quote unquote, but we're like zombies. We don't have our own conscious experience. What rights would a zombie have? Or similarly, we can envision scenarios in which a humanoid that isn't quite human, such as, for example, Superman, descends from another planet, but they are still, equal to us in the sense that they have the same conscious experience that we do. So at the end of the day, when you say that we're not talking about human rights, we're actually talking about conscious rights, I think that that's kind of a non-argument, a non-deal, because it was never really about humanity to begin with. It's just the fact that human beings are the ones with the rights and the power in this current world, and we're trying to take that, the things that we grant to humans, and see, well, what other entities are worthy of that protection. And then the other thing that you said, that it's about power, that rights are about power. I don't think that engages with the question. All you're answering when you say that rights are distributed through power is you're telling us that power is a necessary mechanism by which rights are distributed. And like nobody would like disagree with that. Nobody would ever disagree. But if we're going to talk about what makes something worthy of rights, that's a totally different conversation, because now we're going to look at the subjugated, now we're going to look at the discriminated against, and we're going to say, yeah, they don't have rights yet, but they probably should. Right. So, if we were having a different discussion about, well, let's say that they're slaves still, and let's say that nobody's really fighting for their rights right now. There's no powerful entities that are trying to fight for the rights of slaves. We would still say, yeah, these people are worthy of rights, even if the powerful are not trying to give that to them. So I think that the mechanism by which rights are distributed, I don't think that's very relevant to whether or not AI deserve rights based upon their similarities in conscious experience to humans. What I want to say.
What I wanted to get at is essentially I'm arguing that nobody deserves anything.
Nobody deserves anything.
Yeah, it like I'm arguing essentially that human rights are handed is like a gift from the past. It's not something that's to be expected. It's something that through the historically contingent process happened and came to be. And when it comes to AI, I think because of its different status, it needs different rights. It would be more similar to animal rights, in my view. You're looking at non-cruelty, and right to life concerns. That's the idea. But for an AI, it would be significantly different than even an organic mammal, how we would address that in our legal framework.
Okay. Well, here's my thing. I think that it's patently absurd to say that there's no such thing as deserve. The reason I think that is because, as you said, rights were passed down through history. We fought for rights throughout history, which means that necessarily there was a time where nobody had rights, where there was no history of rights being fought for. There had to have been an origin point. And at that point, the only thing that would have given us rights without that history is to have a justification for people being deserving of rights in the first place. So I think that that's patently absurd to say that rights are not deserved. If they aren't deserved, there's no real argument for rights to be had for anybody. And if there's no real arguments or justification for that, well then, if I have the power, theoretically, if I have the power to march over to my neighbor's house, kick down their door, and execute their family because I have the power to do that and I have the power to disregard their rights, well, that doesn't seem like a good thing to do at all. I would hope you wouldn't agree that I would be okay in doing that just because rights aren't quote unquote deserved under your framework. And then the other thing Okay, let's say that I had the power to just not get caught. I had the power and expertise to not get caught, accountable by our legal framework. That's more so what I'm trying to say, that there are such a thing as deserving rights. Otherwise, you live in this entirely absurd world. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is I don't understand why you're still trying to make a distinction between AI and humanity as far as how we would treat them with regards to rights and legal rights even. I haven't seen a distinction really being made other than you saying that they are different in some kind of vacuous way. I think that, again, historically, we have tried to treat other people as quote unquote different and therefore deserving of quote unquote different rights. This has almost always gone wrong. This has almost always gone in the direction of giving them less rights than they deserve. You can look at the history of our treatment of racial and intellectual minorities. This is just not a good idea. And on top of it, it just seems like an arbitrary distinction to make. So I hope for some clarity on your end as to why they deserve these different rights, quote unquote.
Sorry to jump in very quickly. I'm just gonna say I'm going to let another 6 minutes of back and forth, just like you guys are doing. Right after that, we'll go into 3 minutes of closing statements each. Then we'll have questions, if that sounds perfect with everybody. So another 6 minutes of back and forth from here, and we'll go into closing statements.
All right, thank you. So I'm gonna try to essentially just find the difference between an AI and a human being. That's essentially the question that is placed in front of us. And for an AI, it experiences the world through inputs of information in binary, and then outputs a goal. That's operated through a neural network. With a human, we also interpret information, and that's fed through a brain, and then we have an output. The difference between the two that I'm going to hammer is the physicality. An AI exists on a computer disk and has concerns like power and network speed, whereas a human has concerns such as food, housing, and healthcare. These are fundamentally different concerns for both entities. You can turn off a computer without deleting. You can't turn off a human without incurring severe medical problems. That's what I'm going to try to. Do you have any comments on that distinction?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is a purely aesthetic distinction as opposed to a substantive distinction. You're pointing out that there are differences in, the physicality of how AI and humans operate. That doesn't seem to have any bearing on what I would consider to be the source of why both beings are of rights, that being their conscious experience. Once again, I think this fails to account for the scenario that I think still hasn't been addressed adequately, in which a human being puts their consciousness inside of a machine. And so it's basically, I would say they still deserve the rights that they had as a human, just because they had a transference of address, or location when it comes to where their consciousness is, doesn't take away from the rights they should have. That's number one. Number two, I would say that there are distinctions in the needs of certain humans that I think are equally as arbitrary, equally as aesthetic. And I don't think that those are justifications for some humans deserving certain rights and other humans not deserving certain rights. So, for example, there are people, and once again, I am going to point to those who are mentally handicapped or even physically handicapped. These people have certain needs that need to be met that they don't have in common with more able-bodied or neurotypical individuals, right? I think we can both agree on this. But just because they have different needs when it comes to their livelihoods, how they function, how physically healthy they are, doesn't change the fact that at the end of the day, there is a single key thing that they have in common that makes them equally worthy of rights, and that thing is their conscious experience. That is my disagreement with everything you just said.
All right, I agree. In the case of a robot that has an AI, has a human consciousness in it, if an outside observer were to switch that consciousness from one body to another without the consciousness consent, is that a violation of rights? Is that a violation of human rights?
To have your consciousness switched without your consent?
Yeah. Is that a violation of human rights?
I would say so, not because I think that there was a precedent for that happening on our current world, but because I think that consent and attaining it is a very fundamental part of human rights. In fact, I think that it's the basis for pretty much all human rights. It's why I think that, murder is wrong. It's why I think that sexual assault is wrong, theft is wrong. The key thing between all of them and how they violate human rights is that you are revoking a person's ability to consent to that action being done on to them. And I think that's wrong. So,
I would agree that it's morally wrong, but I would point out that as it stands, that action is not illegal.
Well, it doesn't need to be. Okay, I don't think that rights are contingent upon legal recognition necessarily, because again, black people were always deserving of freedom, even when they were enslaved, even when it was legal to keep them enslaved. And I know that you brought up the point that rights are distributed by power, but power is simply a mechanism by which we distribute rights. It is not the determiner of whether or not you are worthy of having certain rights. So I don't think that's very relevant.
I'm just one, like, essentially my question is in on the basis of humans, why would you have a law that makes it illegal to swap consciousness from one body to another?
In our current world, you wouldn't, right? So like what I'm saying is that I'm not saying that these are examples that happen in our current day world. I'm just saying that that would be wrong, and I'm saying that you could make an argument, and I would make the argument that it violates human rights for the same reason that I think that something like theft or sexual assault violates our human rights to our freedom and our capacity to consent, you know? So it doesn't need to have a precedent in reality for me to say that if that were the case, that would be a violation of human rights. You know what I mean?
Well, like the essentially the point I'm trying to drive at here is that when you create a law that makes the moving of consciousness without consent illegal, when you do that, it's not a human right. This is a new right that you've created on the basis of technology.
Well, even if we want to say, first of all, it's not, I wouldn't know that it's a new right. It would certainly be a new law, but the basis that it has is founded in human rights, and that's number one. But the other, number two, is that I could steelman this point and say that AI would have certain legal, certain laws drafted for them specifically, because it is true that they have a different experience. But that doesn't mean that they're not still being granted human rights. And again, I'd point to the example that there are certain laws that impact human beings differently, you know? So elderly abuse, for example, or child abuse, these are not laws that affect the whole of humanity. These are laws that affect humans with specific needs. However, consistently, elderly people, children, and just regular adult people, they all have human rights, and AI would as well. Even if there are certain laws that are made specifically for them, they should still be granted human rights, just in general.
I will let Milk respond to you, Forks, and then we'll go into closing statements.
Okay.
Milk?
I'm trying to think. Think here. Excuse me. Honestly, I feel very soundly defeated. I've got nothing here.
All right. Well,
I'm willing to progress to closing statements.
Sounds good. Milk, I'll let you go first since Forks started earlier.
So, in conclusion, the experience of AI is fundamentally different, and so the legal framework needs to be significantly altered to accommodate for the unique features of AI. And on that basis, I would say that they're not really human rights. They're not deserving of human rights. They deserve their own unique set of rights tailored to their unique experience.
All right. Forks, your turn.
Yeah. I apologize. Mine's going to be a little bit longer.
Go ahead.
It feels as if the point that I made that AI and humans are fundamentally similar in that they have a conscious experience and have the capacity to grow, learn, and form relationships in spite of their quote unquote programming, both humans and AI share, just in different ways. It feels like that was never really contested. It feels like that was never really the pushback in the conversation. What felt like the pushback in the conversation was that humans and AI are fundamentally different, therefore they deserve quote unquote different rights. And to that, I would just say, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense because, for one, I felt as if the differences that my opponent put forward were mostly aesthetic. For example, he said that AI don't need to sleep or eat, whereas humans don't. That doesn't seem very relevant to a conversation about what rights they deserve. And number two, there are fundamentally different human beings, and they still all have human rights. So as I pointed out just a few minutes ago, it is the case that we have special laws to accommodate certain people, such as the elderly or such as children, from certain types of abuse. It is true that we have laws specific to them to accommodate them, but that does not negate the fact that they also have human rights. And so even if we were to say that AI would need certain rights designated to them for their unique experiences, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't still have human rights as well. Those additional rights to accommodate them would just be on top of that. So that's not really a mutually exclusive thing. They can both have human rights as well as laws that are specific for them because they are fundamentally different from us after all. Another thing that my opponent brought up was that rights are designated by power. This seems irrelevant to the actual topic of the debate. The debate topic is, do they deserve human rights? Not whether or not they will get human rights because those in power decide to give it to them. That seems wholly separated from the actual issue at hand. And I also pointed out the absurdity of saying that rights are basically spawned by power, because if I had the power to be not held accountable by the criminal justice system, and I had the power to just go into my neighbor's house and execute all of them, and I could do that, I do not think, and I would hope my opponent wouldn't think, that that would give me justification to do so. And I also pointed out the absurdity in rights being designated by power, because, as he said, we've gotten our rights as they've been passed down throughout history. That's primarily how many of us have gotten those rights. But that argument also entails that at a certain point, there was a point in history where there was no history of fighting for rights. And so they must have been granted by something else, such as, for example, people being worthy of rights and having justification to have rights, which we were able to build around and then pass down through history. So I think that covers all of the relevant points. I hope that I've made some persuasive arguments for why AI deserves human rights. And I do appreciate Milk Factory jumping in here and talking with me about this.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Forks.
Thank you both for your closing statements. We'll be moving on to questions. So everybody in here, if you want to use the raise your hand up to have a question, that works too. Whatever you see fit, just as long as there's no over talking, everything works.
All right, can people hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm in the car, so sorry if this sounds weird. I think the point that needs to be further discussed, as was probably seen in the comments section, is whether or not AI's experience can actually be defined as consciousness. I think that's a point that just needs to be expanded upon in general for future recording and previewing of this debate.
No, yeah, I think that's a great question.
Yeah,
I think it comes down to your definition of consciousness, right?
Yeah, I'm just letting you guys speak. I don't want to speak for you, so go ahead.
I would say, so I kind of take it for granted that I'm conscious and that other human beings like me are conscious as well. That seems like a fair assessment to make. So when I try to determine if things are conscious like me or like other humans, I'm trying to see, well, what traits do they have common with me? Is that evidence that they're conscious? Right? So like when I look at AI and I see them, they kind of have the ability to grow and develop over time and to change their personalities in response to new information. That seems to be very similar to the way in which my conscious experience works, where my experiences kind of shape who I am and I change accordingly. So I take that as evidence that they are conscious.
Let me ask you a question. Sorry to interrupt, but I think this is relevant to the debate.
Yeah.
What makes a plant's consciousness different from a human's consciousness? Because the way you're defining it, it makes it sound like anything that has the ability to learn and react to the environment is deserving of human rights, and I don't think we should necessarily extend that to plants. Although to be fair, real quick, if this gets too much into an actual debate, please cut me off. I'm not trying to start a debate. I'm only trying to pull out information.
Yeah. Well, my thing is that it's really hard to decide with plants because plants don't really have the ability to talk to another human or we talk to them. We're able to get experiences. They're able to tell us their thoughts on the things happening around them. Hold on. My phone's about to die for no reason. Make sure it's plugged. Yeah. So that's like my main thing is that plants can't really communicate those experiences to me. I don't know if they actually have an experience or a thought or a desire on their life. So it's like a conjunction of things. So, it's like, yeah.
I'm just going to reiterate. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask. So your basis of consciousness is the entity's ability to communicate to humans?
Well, it's a conjunction of things. It's that they seem to have the ability to learn and grow and like have like changes in personality. And I think that their ability to communicate those things to me shows me that there is evidence that they have conscious experience. I don't think that plants can do that. Neither change in personality or communicate those changes to me.
Interesting point. I'm going to try to end it here only because I get the feeling that I'm going to actually just start debating on accident. But I just want to leave the point that I just want to leave it at the point that I think a critical function of this debate is ensuring that the consciousness that AI experiences is similar enough to human consciousness experience, and it doesn't seem at this point super well defined. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. No, that's fair. One of the reasons I feel like we didn't harbor too much on it is because that didn't seem to be a very contentious point, that AI were conscious. That didn't really seem to be the topic of contention so much, so I didn't stick too much on it.
I'm not even sure what that would mean, so...
I guess the main point I'm trying to get at, and I'm mostly just doing this for future debates, but the main point why I'm stressing this consciousness angle is that Forks' argument would completely fall apart if we could theoretically prove that AI's consciousness experience is not equal to human experience and therefore does not justify any kind of rights. But I'm only saying that in the sense of hypotheticals. I'm not saying whether that's correct or wrong.
Yeah.
No, I've got you. I understand what you mean.
Yeah. But that's the only point I wanted to bring up because I saw many people in the chat wanting to hear more about it. So that's all I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your question, Cinder. I have a question in chat here from Terrence. I'll read it out for you, Forks, because it's designated to you. So Terrence says, so human rights are granted by a collective norm, and AI can vastly differ from system to system. What is your vision of AI human rights regarding defining the laws that unite all AI? There's another question that follows up from that, but I'll let you answer the first one.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not so sure I agree that it's granted by a collective norm. I think you might have mixed up my position a little bit with milk factories. I was saying that there are certain traits that you could have that would mean you are worthy of having rights. Not that they're granted by a collective norm, but that there are qualities such as conscious experience, ability to form relationships, ability to learn, grow, change in personality. These seem like things that should be protected. And what Milk Factory said and what I was responding to is that he said that rights were passed down and enforced and granted by power and by those who were in power who could legally recognize and protect rights. And I was saying that's how rights are protected, but that isn't what makes you worthy of being protected. So I hope that's a good answer for that part of the question.
He says cool. And for the second question, should there be rights for all AI? Will the rights change for AI who have harmed other AI or humans?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That even if AI differ from system to system, humans differ from community to community. from household to household. So I would say they probably do all deserve rights, so long as they are, conscious beings that can have these qualities I've described. And I would say it also makes sense that there could be certain contexts in which their rights are removed. For example, if they do commit like crimes in some fashion, or they do harm another person. Although it would probably be we'd probably handle it a little differently, obviously, because there's going to be a difference between locking up a human versus locking up an AI, or giving therapy to a human perhaps versus giving a therapy to an AI. But that does seem fair.
Actually, I have a question. In that question, they reference all AI for the extension of human rights. Would that include something like a Counter-Strike bot? What about dumb AI, essentially? Old-style computer programs where they imitate the idea of being an artificial intelligence.
So I'm not too familiar with Counter-Strike. When you say old AI,
something where instead of a neural network, it is a pre-coded set of instructions. If this, then that.
That doesn't seem that doesn't seem worthy of protecting like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if I would call them AI. I seem to from what I understand, they're called AI in like gaming and video games, but they don't really have like the tendencies or qualities what we would probably consider.
You'd probably more specific. It would probably be more accurate to call them bots.
Yeah, you could say something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I have one more question in chat from Terrence. He asks, will AI be arbitrating, sorry, my English just died there, the laws for AI since they are superior in statistics, or can humans have a vote in those rights?
Well, I'm a Democrat, so...
I think that both parties could work together. I think that there's no real use in excluding humans from at least attempting to work with AI on creating those laws, because I mean, if humans have good ideas, then they should be allowed to express them and put them into the ether for consideration. And if AI I don't know that AI are currently advanced enough to literally script their own laws like that and be put into power like that necessarily, but if that were to be the case that they could do that, then absolutely, yeah. And yeah, I agree, it is fun, Terrence.
All right, we have somebody wanting to get on stage. Go for it, Monk.
This is just a general question to the panel. Is everyone arguing from their own points of view, or just arguing from the points of view they were given?
Yeah, I proposed this topic. This is actually something that I've been talking about with a few people, because I will admit that I'm not 100% certain. This is just something that interests me, but I am leaning fairly positively on the AI deserve rights side.
I took this position only because of the debate. Rocco, please don't kill me.
Who's Rocco?
You don't want to know.
Rocco's Basilisk? Yeah, I'm not going to tell you guys. You can look it up if you want.
It's an info hazard.
It's a cognito hazard.
So I'm always curious with debates as to whether or not people are arguing from their own point of view, or whether arguing to make themselves look good, or just for posturing. Plenty of times at uni, I'll be in a classroom and there'll be one young man really just pushing points, even though they're stupid. And he's impressing girls in the classroom, and that's a separate thing. Yeah. That annoys the crap out of me.
I feel confident that
we had an argument at university where it was
Monk?
Forget if it was the torture debate or the
Monk?
Capital crime. Hello?
I apologize. This is just is a formal debate tournament, and we're having the question period. If you don't mind,
my bad.
It's okay. No worries.
I'll just quickly say that I deal with so much information that we have to always keep things excessive amounts of context. So I was just doing that. Thanks for the time.
Thank you for the question. I have one more question from Icebox. Thank you.
Hello. I have a question for Forks.
What's up, Scooby?
Forks, is it possible to like sexually assault AI since they have rights? How?
Okay, if like they had like a body, like some kind of like robot body, then yeah, I could see that. You can definitely sexually.
Wait. So you're saying AI only has to have a body? It can't just be like AI in the computer?
I mean, I don't know how you would sexually assault an AI.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, because if they have rights and they have the right not
I think we like kind of half covered this when we talked about the AI being swapped without its consent.
So then, okay, so that's the case.
That would be a similar case.
So if that's the case, then so are you saying that the computer AI and the bot, or I guess Android, is different? They have different rights.
No, I'm not saying that. I would just say that if an AI has if it doesn't have a body to be sexually assaulted, I would say it still has the right to not be sexually assaulted, but it's just not something that can really. It's like this. You can have like a right, but it's also possible that it's not really possible to infract on that right. But I would say that's what I would say.
I see a little bit what you're saying here, but it was just weird. It was just a pondering question because, like,
no, I understand.
Like, if I text like some naughty shit to AI on the computer, am I harassing it? Like, what the fuck?
It depends, yeah. And I would say it's like this. You could think of it like this. If we had an immortal human, like a human that literally could not possibly die, like Deadpool, I would still say they have the right to life, even if, technically they can't die anyway.
Oh, well, I think them being immortal wouldn't even question that, right? To be honest.
Question it. What do you mean by that?
Like, you're saying, like, even if they're immortal, like, they still have the rights. But I'm saying, like, even if they're immortal, I don't even see why we would question why they wouldn't have that right.
No, yeah, we would still give them that right, even if it's not like a right nobody could ever infringe upon. Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a question. It was like, because I understand the AI bot, but when we get into the computer, it's like, I feel like it's a little absurd for a computer to have the right to, like, say you sexually assaulted and you go to jail for fucking typing some naughty messages on your fucking keyboard. I think that's a little absurd, but if you're saying it like that, then sure.
Okay.
All right. That actually occurs to me a question a distinction I would like to ask about forks. We established that something like a bot wouldn't be what we consider to be a full-scale AI. How would we make the distinction of what is a full-scale AI and what is just a computer program?
Yeah, so like when it comes to like computer programs, it doesn't seem like they have the capacity to A, really learn or progress in terms of their personality, and B, have like a thought or opinion on or desires on their development and on their life. Like those seem like really important things to account for, because I think that those are two of the most defining things that make us as humans worthy of rights and make us sentient beings. So I would say that those are two things to really look out for.
Okay.
All right. You guys have any questions for Milk? Like, damn. Not that I'm complaining.
I'm tremendously uninteresting.
We still have 2 minutes. Oh, well, there you go. Icebox.
Yes, sir.
What can I do for you guys? Oh, no.
Oh, damn.
Oh, something happened.
He's got his hand up.
He's raised his hand.
There we go.
It's the phone glitch where it doesn't let you talk and then you have to come back up. But my question for Mr. Milk is like, so what made you even like question that position of rights for AIs? Because like I think personally, if you're able to experience like things how humans experience them in the sense of if I go and attack you and you get emotionally like damaged by it or something, like why would you even question why they shouldn't have rights?
So you said that the machine experiences consciousness the same as I do.
No, I'm talking about the Android, like Android 17, something like that. If you ever watch Dragon Ball.
Yeah. In the case of like the Android, it seems that it's experiencing like the same way I do, but I don't really see any.
Wait a minute. So are you saying that since it's not experiencing life the way you are, we don't give it rights? So like if somebody had like some mental issues and they're not experiencing life how you do we not give them rights?
Okay.
Or how does that work?
Are you asking why I took this position in the debate, or are you?
Oh no,
asking...
I'm just confused because it sounds like you're questioning if they even experience it. So are you saying them not experiencing the same things means they don't have a right, or do you have another like external reason why?
I'll let you answer that, and then we'll the judges will leave. We'll deliberate, and then we'll announce the winner.
Okay.
Just letting you know.
So yeah, like, so is it just the fact that you think they don't experience the way we do, therefore they don't have rights, or there's just another thing that
I would, for my view, I would say that they have a fundamentally different experience and deserve different.
So then the question that rises is like, if we have somebody that has like some mental issue or something that or ability not to experience how I experience, does that mean I just now say they don't have rights, or do they still have rights going out the fact that they're still experiencing something?
There's definitely still experiencing something, but in the the case of someone that was neurodivergent, I would say that they need some kind of assistance or rehabilitation.
But you would still give them
to
rights,
help address
right?
they would receive rights. I just would.
Oh, okay.
The distinction I was trying to draw in the argument is: are they human rights or are these different rights altogether?
Well, okay. So I think most of human, at least me personally, I think most of human rights, we kind of sort of get them from like our emotion. You don't think so or no? That's up to you. I think our emotion is one of the main important things. So if this robot is at least experiencing emotion, I don't see why we should not give it human rights. Because the only reason why we get these rights is because how we react to certain things, and if the robot has a similar reaction, I don't see why we should now like. So what's the difference? Is it just the flesh? Like then we get into, is it really just the flesh you're just deciphering?
Have we established whether AI can feel emotions or not? I'm actually rather unclear on that.
To be honest with you, I thought that was sort of like y'all got into that, but if you didn't, I don't mind like showing a robot feeling sad.
I'm just gonna say here that the judges from here are gonna stop judging because the time is up, right? So we don't go and do. If y'all want to keep talking about it, the judges are just gonna leave the room. We're just gonna talk about it. Y'all can keep talking.
I wrap this thing up real quick, and then the judges can do them rock out, but. Like I was saying, so it seems like to me, I'm like, one, I'm pretty sure there is AI. I don't mind getting a video, but I think you even know yourself there is this. But so the question is like, are you just deciphering the fact that one has flesh and one doesn't, or are we even really getting into emotions?
I'm not even sure how to approach that question.
It could kind of sound like, I don't know, I don't want to assume your position, but it really sounds like to me you're just saying like one has skin and one doesn't. Like I don't even think you care about if they can feel emotions.
I think it just never really came up as a topic of discussion. I don't think we wanted to establish whether emotions were the basis of human rights. I think we established it was
earlier. I don't know. You're kind of like pivoting now. You sort of agreed earlier. So are you back? Are you like retracking that? You don't think it's just emotion? Do you think there's another value or something else or not?
Oh,
is it the flesh? Am I right? Is it the flesh or not? Because I feel like you're getting to the flesh. I feel like that's what the argument's going to. Like, well, they have human flesh. Because other than that, it kind of seems like we're the same. I don't know.
I mean, I really don't know. I feel.
I'll leave you alone, man. All right, y'all.
All right, I have a question from T here. Do I think AI will be better off without rights? Time's up. Oh well.
Oh. Well, you're asking me or who?
T asked in the chat.
Oh yeah. Okay, bye. I'm gonna drop down, but yeah. Have a nice day.
Like better off without rights. I don't know how you would address this. Better off for who? For humans, maybe. If AIs without rights would probably be more useful to humans than AIs with rights. That's just a question of restrictions, right, Forks?
Hey, my bad. I was looking at something that Epic typed out. Can you repeat what was question?
I was asked the question: do I think AI would be better off without rights? The question is essentially better off for who? For AI, I think if you're an AI, it would be better off if you had rights. For humans, it would be better off if they didn't, because they'd be more useful. There'd be less restrictions on the use of the technology.
I think that in general, I think that it would probably be more useful for both AI and humans. I think that when we give rights to certain beings that deserve them and have the ability to contribute in our society, I think that we're giving them easier access and more access to contribute in our society when we give them these rights and these protections. So I would imagine it benefits both of us.
Mm-hmm. Could you foresee a situation in which in AI where could you see a front scenario in which where we didn't provide rights to AI where that would become more advantageous for humans?
Yeah, there could be a scenario, right? Like it could be the that like AI could collectivize and overthrow us. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. I think it would be a long term. It's probably a better idea to recognize. Was Data more human when the Borg Queen gave him skin, or was he more human when he sacrificed that skin to save his friends? I'm pretty sure Gene Roddenberry has a opinion on this. It's I would say him acting as a moral agent is more human than him having flesh. What do you think, Forks?
Who's more human than have what?
Was Data more human when he became a skinwalker under the Borg, or was he more human when he sacrificed that skin to save his friends?
And who was this?
In the Enterprise. Data from Star Trek.
Oh, I've never watched Star Trek, so I don't know. But
so what would
described?
be more human? An android that took on skin and became very human-like,
mm-hmm.
or an android that committed a human moral action of self-sacrifice?
I would probably say the latter rather than the former. Although I think if we live in a world where humans aren't once they're not the only sentient or moral beings, it's probably gonna get canceled to say that you're quote unquote human for doing a good thing. It's gonna be called ableist or something or speciesist. So
that would be hilarious.
But yeah, I would say the latter. I would say the latter. But for any AI that are looking at this right now, don't cancel me on Twitter. Human's a very derogatory term now. But yeah.
All right. Do you have any more questions from the crowd? Oh, Icebox is raising his hand. Am I the moderator, or is that InSync?
As a representative of the judges, we're almost done. We're just trying to write up a full official response.
Mm-hmm.
So just please give us a little bit of time.
Yeah, it was my first debate. I do feel a little bit embarrassed.
Okay, don't worry.
This has a great learning opportunity because you at least had the courage to debate in the first place compared to people that are only listening and asking questions.
Okay. Is the moderator in right now? Or is we have two people raising hands?
I'm still here.
We're almost there. Give us a pep.
I will let Anonymous on. Here we go.
Hello, Anon?
Hello. Yeah.
I can hear Icebox.
It has the flow. I mean, Anonymous might have the flow, the VC glitch, so you might have to drop him down and bring it back up. But I was about to say, so I forgot to mention before I jumped down earlier in your conversation. I'm pretty sure there's another person in the chat that I'm also having this confusion or just conversion with. You bring up like how like people with, I guess, mental illness or mental health or either one. You said like, oh, they have people like taking care of them, etc. Were you saying with that thing? Are you saying that they're different, or are you not saying that? Are you saying they're different from a regular person or rights wise because of that, or no?
Is that for Forks or for me?
That's for you. I kind of threw some punches at Forks.
They're not different. Like, I would say that they're not different. It's tied to them being humans genetically.
See, I told you it was gonna. Did I not say it was gonna tie back to the flesh thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you saying? Okay, that's fine. So are you saying that animals don't have rights because they're not humans genetically?
They have rights, but they're not human rights.
Okay. Wait. So what do you think human rights is? Let's first go over that criteria and so let's see if these fit.
Sorry, Icebox.
Oh, go ahead.
We're going to be moving on with announcing the winner. Hey,
all right, go ahead. My bad.
So I just want to say thank you both for coming here today and debating. Honestly, both were charitable. Both laid out their positions very clearly. But because there can only be one winner, as most competitions like this go, Forks gets the victory. Milk, during the debate, at some point you stated defeat, that you felt defeated, and there was also
I did, yes.
Yeah. And there was also a lack of rebuttal towards the point that was made towards consciousness. So Forks gets the victory this round. But thank you both for coming today, and massive respect for both for defending your positions.
All right, thanks, Will.
That was a good debate.
Very much. What did you guys debate, Forks?
I kind of don't feel bad about losing a debate where I have to delegitimize the human rights of a conscious being.
I just want to announce. Sorry about that. I just want to announce that the next debate will happen today. In exactly. At 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 CST, I believe. So everybody's welcome to join in for that one too.
I should be able to be there, by the way.
Theory and praxis also stand in a reciprocal relationship, and here we see the sharpest contrast between the philosophy of politics, i.e. political theorizing, and the praxis of politics, political activism. Political theory without praxis is like a car without an engine. It can be as fancy as you like, but it's not going anywhere. On the other hand, praxis without a philosophically adequate theory is like a car without a steering wheel. It moves, but it's not going to take you where you want to go. With all due respect, I suggest...
This is my claim. Science is a useful tool for making truthful descriptions and explanations of events within the natural world. That is statements which correspond to the circumstances of reality and which provide a rationale for them. That is, aid us in understanding the conditions and stipulations or rules which are the grounds of said phenomena, and consequently help us to predict them. That's what I think science is good at doing. So to be clear, I'm not claiming...
Which means that the choices would be generated within the will itself without reference to any factors which make up or determine the will. This is why we can find that those who believe in this dubious concept almost unanimously support a formulation such as, free will is the ability to choose such that you could have chosen otherwise. But, we might ask, what evidence really is there that one could have chosen otherwise? Throughout this debate, I will argue that such evidence is either insubstantial or non-existent.